And during the war, what you were with?
Well, yes, during the war, I was with the 70th Infantry Division. We trained at Camp Adair in Oregon, and we went over as separate regiments. Well, the division was moved to Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, and then they needed infantry so badly. This was about, well, it was before the bulge, in fact, in Europe, that they sent us over just as infantry regiments, without the division artillery, engineers, and all that sort of thing. And we went over as a task force with the assistant division commander.
Okay.
And so we went to France, and we went in the Marseille area and up into the Alsace and in that region.
So tell me like where you were living and what you were doing when the war started, I guess, just from Pearl Harbor.
Well, I was at West Point at the time of the war. I'd been there for a year and a half, and that's right. It was December when the war started, and so I was oriented towards the military anyway.
What was it about the military? Why did you decide you wanted to do that even
well,
before the war?
If you go back in that time frame, I guess my family had a great deal to do with this, and I was very fortunate to get an appointment to West Point, and it when you're at that age, I probably would have gone into engineering or something of that nature, but this included that as well,
right?
Because basically their orientation is largely towards engineering. At least a part of it is. So
when did you like the culture of West Point? Did it fit you well when you got in?
It doesn't fit you at all. There was another place down the river just a little bit, and they likened us to being similar to that, which was I've even forgotten the name of the big prison on Sing Sing. I guess it is.
And why would they? What was the comparison? Just no.
Well, when you go in, we went in the summer of 1939, and once you're in, you don't leave, except on trips that they take you. This is particularly the first year or two. As a plebe, you're a prisoner by all means, and so for the first year, you certainly don't go anywhere. You have no vacation. You don't go home at Christmas, and the war started just before the Christmas holidays. I mean, for us. And normally that's when you do get it. We would have gotten a 2-week vacation to go home, but they curtailed that and cut it down to 7 days. And so in this sense, it's pretty restrictive, not like the colleges today. Yeah. And of course, it was not co-ed as it is now.
Right.
And I have a granddaughter who graduated now almost 10 to 12 years ago. Both she and her husband were graduates.
What was it like did you hear about Pearl Harbor over the radio, or were you told about it, or?
I forgot. Well, I remember it was in the afternoon because we'd just gone to the Saturday afternoon matinee. It was a Saturday, I'm pretty sure. A Saturday afternoon matinee, and we were told about it afterwards. I don't remember, just by word of mouth.
Was it a shock, or did you kind of expect to be in the war eventually?
Oh, yeah. I think so. Just by this time, things had been building up in Europe. The Europeans had been in war for a year or two. Well, the French and the British and the Poles. Oh yes, I mean it was very definitely the sort of thing that I think that everyone felt we would end up participating in.
Tell me about what happened after graduation.
Well, after graduation, we were sent to our branch schools. Like in our instance, we went to Fort Benning in Georgia for the infantry basic course, and that was a 3-month course. And then after that, we were shipped out to various infantry divisions or units. And that was when, after the course, well, then that's when we were sent to the 70th Infantry Division. At least there were one, two. Well, I had several classmates, but of the 4 of us, I was the only one. No, 2 of us went to the 70th Division. Then one of them, one was shipped out early and went to the Pacific. He didn't go overseas with us. He went overseas with another unit.
Were you able to hear about what they were doing throughout the war, or you just learned stuff after about them? I mean,
unless you happen to run into somebody, you're talking about the ones I knew closely like that. You didn't hear much. You eventually got the information, although in my instance, one of the 4 of us, although he was infantry, he was air-ground liaison for the Corps or the Army that our division was in. And he came down to see me one time, and we were in a real quiet area, and he set up a fighter attack on some positions out in front of us. But this was we were a lot of wartime. You're not moving forward or backward. You're just sitting there, and you almost have a gentleman's agreement with the enemy that you don't. If I don't fire at you, you don't fire at me. It almost is that silly, you might say, but that's the way it sort of goes. So things are pretty quiet, and that's when you have the visitors, and they like to come down and take a look and see what's going on.
So you're saying, like, on these times when you're waiting, you might have known that the enemy was out there, but you guys just kept the waiting pattern, kind of?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you don't see them. They don't, well, they may see us a little. You occasionally see them, but generally speaking, you keep yourself covered. You don't want to be shot at, even though it may be only 100 or 200, well, a couple hundred yards. Yeah, but then it is some funny little things that sort of keep you, that you think of in those terms so that you have a little bit better spirit. Yeah, we went over on what was called the West Point. It was our largest steamer. It was really a very elegant ship, except for our accommodations were a little bit less desirable. But it was a very nice ship. And we didn't have to be escorted because it was a fast enough ship. We were able to circle down towards Florida and go straight across to Gibraltar and on into Marseille. Oh, and from there, the 7th Army was aware the Battle of the Bulge, which had gone towards Belgium and in that direction, was pretty well contained. But what they had done is that they had shifted some of the units from the 7th Army over so they could attack the Bulge. That was Patton's troops and all that. And at the same time, they became aware that Hitler was contemplating an attack in our area. It was to come down from the north into France and to come up from the south, and that would pinch off Strasbourg and also 7th Army. And this was called Operation Nordwind. And that was to begin on the 1st of January. And by golly, it did. Our intelligence was so good that we knew that it did, and they succeeded. It isn't like World War I, where you were in trenches almost, arm to arm, soldiers. You get into the mountains and the woods, and you may not have anybody for hundreds of yards or a half a mile from you. There aren't that many troops. You don't have that many. You can't see, and it's very easy to infiltrate and to move. So what they did, they moved us from where we had been in Alsace over to where the main thrust was coming down from the north. That was near Wingen-sur-Moder and those places. Bitch, although we weren't in Bitch, it was another division that was in Bitch. But we were in the Vosges Mountains, in that region there, and so we were shifted over there. And then the German attack came down, and they pushed our lines way back. The 45th Infantry Division was there. They pushed it back, and we were then injected piecemeal, you might say. A company or a battalion was assigned to this unit of the 45th to fight here or fight there. So that's where what happened. With this company particularly, I wasn't with them at this time. I was with the other company, K Company, that I was with. But they were ordered. I remember because I had driven back from a rear area to go back and bring some stuff to my company, and I caught them on the road walking towards Wingen, marching towards Wingen, and I asked the company commander, Captain Meagher, I said, where are you going with the company? And he had about 2 or 3 platoons, and he said, there's a German patrol that has gone into Wingen, and we're told to go in there and get rid of it. That German patrol turned out to be 2 battalions from the 6th SS Mountain Division. Oh my gosh. And here he is with his one little company, and he's the one that I told you about who was killed that afternoon. Within hours after I spoke with him, but they fought there, and this was a sort of a piecemeal thing that was brought together. They captured the regimental headquarters with all the 45th Infantry Division troops that were in there. They captured those plus some of our people and had them as prisoners, but they then were surrounded because they had infiltrated the lines which were up about 10 miles away in the mountains, in the snow, and the forest, you just couldn't see anything. They had gotten through, but now they were in this town. They used all of our equipment that they could to fire at us because they couldn't be resupplied. And eventually they were essentially, basically either killed or were able to, some of them, to withdraw and get back to their lines.